Hi students, you're going to start class today by logging in to Classroom and finding this assignment, CER Practice Missing Meatballs. When you click on the assignment, you should have a link to open a document that says CER Practice Missing Meatballs. When you open the practice document, it should look like this. This is going to be your job for the day. It says below you will find examples of scientific explanations from your classmates. These are the scientific explanations we wrote yesterday as a class together. You're going to do some work to give feedback to your classmates on their explanations, also helping you learn a little bit more about how to write an explanation and what my expectations are. So first, you're going to need to know how to use your highlighter. So I'm going to open my toolbar so that I can see my highlighter up at the top of the screen because I'm going to need to highlight different things in these colors. So it says, here are the directions. Below you will find examples of scientific explanations from your classmates. Please highlight the claim, evidence, and reasoning in the colors below. Then use the table below the passage to help the writer improve their explanation. Turn in the document when finished. You may then have free time on your Chromebook. School appropriate free time, of course, that's not distracting to those around you. If you are not working well on your Chromebook, you can have a paper copy and use colored pencils rather than highlighters. So first, I'm going to highlight the claim in yellow, the evidence in green, and the reasoning in blue. And I'm going to read the directions to help me know what to highlight. And we're going to do this very first example together. This example says, Mr. Guile ate the lunch because for the reason he had spaghetti stain on his shirt, and when he tipped over his lunchbox, he had an apple -2 sandwich, so that means that he didn't eat his lunch. The lunch that must be meatballs is stolen. Mr. Guile ate the lunch because he had spaghetti. Spaghetti goes with meatballs. His plate might have meat on it. Now, one thing that's really important to me is that we don't criticize our classmates' writing, we only try to make it better. Obviously, there are a few silly things that you noticed in this writing, but it's clear that the person probably just didn't do a good job editing. They're actually a decent writer, so let's remember that when we're critiquing our classmates' writing. So first, I noticed that the claim answers the question, who stole the meatballs? So I'm going to read this writing and look for the claim. Here it says, Mr. Guile ate the lunch. That kind of answers the question of who stole the meatballs. So I'm going to highlight that in yellow by clicking up here, clicking highlight, and clicking yellow. Next, I'm going to look for my evidence. Evidence, it says, are details taken directly from the story that support the claim. Mrs. Studebaker will have the story posted on the board, and remember, in order for something to be evidence, it has to come right from the story. So, I noticed first, he had a spaghetti stain on his shirt. That is evidence. That was in the story. So I'm going to highlight that green. And when he tipped over his lunchbox, he had an apple and a sandwich. That was also in the story, so I'm going to highlight that green. And then I'm not seeing anything else that I really recognize as evidence. So I'm noticing they probably only have 2 pieces of evidence. So now I'm going to look for reasoning. And remember, reasoning explains why each piece of evidence supports the claim. So now I'm going to look for why they should explain to me why the spaghetti stain is important. And here I see some stuff about spaghetti. It doesn't quite make sense to me, but I think that's what they mean is the reasoning for why the spaghetti stain was important. I think they could have said it better, but I think that's what they meant their reasoning to be. And then here, where they said that he tipped over his lunchbox and it had an apple and a sandwich, I'm noticing that they're saying that this means he didn't eat his lunch. So that's their reasoning for why it's important that he still had his own lunch, is that he didn't eat his lunch. So his lunch was left over. Maybe he ate someone else's lunch. So now looking at this writing, I'm going to critique it. And I'm going to do that by using this yes or no question. These yes or no questions here. And I'm going to type yes or no for what I think. Did the claim clearly answer the question? Well, the question was who stole the meatballs, and they said Mr. Guile ate the lunch. Instead of saying yes or no, I'm going to say kind of, because they kind of did. Here, is the claim a well-written statement? Yes, I suppose. It makes sense. It's clear to me. Are there at least 3 pieces of evidence? I'm going to say no, because I only highlighted 2 pieces of evidence. Does the evidence come directly from the story? Yes, they did pull their evidence right from the story. Did the author choose evidence that supports their claim? Well, their claim was that Mr. Guile ate the lunch, and they talked about things that he had maybe done that proved that he ate the lunch, so I'm going to say yes. Then finally, is each piece, or not finally, I guess 2 more, is each piece of evidence further explained in the reasoning? I'm going to say yes. Does the author use appropriate grammar, spelling, punctuation, and transitions? I'm going to say no, because this -2 is a little confusing to me, and then I know that they should have said he didn't eat his lunch instead of he didn't ate his lunch. And finally, all these exclamation points I feel like are not very good examples of formal writing, so I think they should take those out. So now I'm going to give advice to this author. I'm going to try to keep it positive and focus on what they did well, but I'm also going to try to give them some areas they can improve. So I'll say, good job. I'll put a period. Just remember to edit to make sure your writing makes sense. Also, Mrs. McDonald would like us to include 3 pieces of evidence. And I'll end on a positive. Keep up the good work. And now I've gone through, I've highlighted the claim, the evidence, and the reasoning. I've given them some feedback on this form. I've written some pointers to make their writing better, and I am done with this example. Now, as you continue to scroll down the document, you don't have to do this first one. We did it together. You'll notice when you open the document that it will have my typing on here that you can use as an example. You're going to continue with explanation 2 and try to do the same thing that I did. Highlight their claim, evidence, and reasoning in colors. Give them some yes or no feedback in the table. And finally, give advice to the student to improve their writing. There are quite a few more examples as we move on. I would like you to work until the end of class, finishing as much as you can. And then when you are finished, I want you to click Turn In. If you finish everything and you're sure you've done a good job, you may have school appropriate free time on your Chromebook. However, I'm going to be looking at what you get done to tell me 2 things. First, how you are behaving in class, and second, how well you understand these concepts. So please show me that you're using your time wisely, this information is clear to you, or you're at least trying your best, and that you're behaving appropriately during class. All right, good luck, guys. Have a good day. Thanks for being excellent students for Mrs. Studebaker.